probably. Where he says, I know this isn't working, but I'm going to make it work. I'm going to force it. I'm going to try harder. I'm going to do something different. And a lot of us, that's very similar to us, is it not? Because the hard part, the interesting thing about the Christian faith that's radically different from all the other faiths is you actually have to humble yourself to come in. See, the sin behind the sin isn't that all these licentious Las Vegas type sins. The sin behind the sin in the Christian narrative is actually pride. You think you're the king of your own life. You think you are autonomous. That you're the number one authority, that the world revolves around you. And the hard part about coming to Jesus is you actually have to admit, that's not true. I need help. I'm broken. I'm hurt. There's so much freedom in that, but it's really hard usually to give that first surrender, is it not? Tim Keller, actually, one of my favorite pastors, I just said a simple quote, but he basically says the only thing you need to be a Christian is need. Meaning it's not that you have to be good enough or not get tattoos or not drink or whatever, which, by the way, wrong team right here, tattoos. Okay. It's that you need. The thing, like the pathway to follow Jesus is surrender. It's taking off your pseudo throne and your pseudo crown and saying, no, there's actually a true king that I've been like rebelling against. And what's crazy is if anyone's had that experience, there's actually an immense amount of freedom in that. Because when the spotlight's on you, not on you, then the pressure's not on you. You ever thought about that? See, when the spotlight's on you, man, that's hard work. You got to try and try and try, and if you mess up, spotlight's on you, that's going to be hard. But when you can kind of step back, say spotlight's on him, Jesus, it's about what he does, it's about what he has done, not about what I do, but I step into that, a lot of freedom. A lot of freedom. So I don't know where you're at, but have you ever stepped into that? Have you ever found that? Or are you still in the place of kind of despair and making it work and going and hiring yourself out to other places, saying, I'm going to do it on my own? So there's this humility there that needs to come into the Christian walk. There's this, hey, I can't make it work. The other way I like to put it is almost like other religions are kind of like a ladder. We got to climb this way, eat this way, pray this way, and then maybe if you're lucky, you'll get to heaven at the end of time. But Jesus says, no. It's actually me coming down to you, first of all, and second of all, you admitting that you need me. And there's actually security in that, not a gamble at the end of time. Because it's right now, not a lottery at the end. And you can have that if you follow Jesus. But then it keeps going. Verse 17. But when he came to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and I will go to my father and I will say to him, that's one of my favorite parts, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. Now why that's one of my favorite parts is because he's talking to himself. Is that not weird? Right? Like he literally is just practicing his come home speech before he comes home. Like, are we any different? Amen, right? Don't raise your hand, it's awkward, but it's true. Right? Like, we're no different. We say, God, I'll go to Hillside every single Sunday. I'll be in a bunch of accountability groups. I'll be in a bunch of Bible studies. I'll not get tattoos. I'll not do this. I'll not do this. And I will do this, and this. And then we come home and we say the exact same thing. And God's like, dude, I heard that back there. Like, you don't need to repeat yourself. Right? But there's this weird idea in religion that we have to kind of manufacture this perfection and make it all nice and tidy and put a bow on it and then bring it to God. I've only been a parent for about 4.5 months. We have a little baby girl, Kinsley, and so I'm already envisioning what it's going to be like when she's older and starts talking and stuff like that. And I already know, and I can already tell by that relationship, that ultimately the thing that will please a father or Alyssa, my wife, and who is Kinsley's mom, is not when the kid, if they mess up or something, comes home and puts the nice package on it and says, here you go, I'm really, really sorry, but just comes home in brokenness. I need help. Where are you? Can you help me? And it's moments like that where there's actually that vulnerability that then leads to love and grace and intimacy, right? And so you don't have to manufacture this funky little thing and say, here you go, God. He's like, no, I'm a father. Just come home. It doesn't have to be all put together. Just come home. And if you are a parent, I'm sure you know that exact sentiment. And so you see that in this. And so he practices the come home speech, which was hilarious, all by himself, probably in a desert or something. Verse 20, and he arose and he came to his father, but he was still a long way off. His father saw him, felt compassion, ran, embraced him, and kissed him. And the son said to him, just like he quoted before, word for word, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. End quote. But the father said to his servants, it's almost as if the father says, you're done, right? He just cuts him off and basically goes into his speech. And what's the father's speech? Bring quickly the best robe, put it on him, put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let us eat and celebrate, for my son was dead, and he is alive. He was lost, and he's found. And they began to celebrate. Let's just unpack that a little bit. So the son comes home, and the first thing it says is that the father what? Sees him where? A long way off, or far away, or however you want to put it, right? Now, really easy question, but how do you see someone a long way off? If you're looking for them, would you agree? Like, that doesn't usually happen by accident, right? The way I put it last service is like, do you see someone a long way off if you just have your back to them watching the Seahawks game? And like I said, I had to plug that because I'm from Seattle and they're Super Bowl champs, so there we go. No, you don't, right? You don't. You don't see someone a long way off if you're aloof to them, if your back's to them, if you're not looking for them. But you do see someone a long way off if you're looking for them, if you're on the porch saying, where is my son, where is my daughter, probably every single day since the son left. It wasn't just by accident that he got lucky that one day. He was probably looking every single day. Where is he? Where is my son? Here's a question. Which one do you think is God? Do you think God has his back to you, that God doesn't really care about you, God doesn't know your name? Here's the funny thing about other leaders in religions, whether it's Muhammad or anything of that nature, they don't know your name. The other religions would actually agree with that. Like Muhammad does not know your name. Jesus does. There's an intimacy, there's a closeness, there's a search where Jesus says, I'm looking for you. I'm the one initiating. I'm the one searching. You respond, not the other way around. See, we think religion is we have to do something. We have to initiate. We have to try, and then he responds. By the way, that puts you at the center of the equation, which actually is idolatry, right? Saying, I'm God. I'm the one that kind of everything orbits around. But Jesus says, I initiate. I'm looking. I'm active. I'm alive. And he's looking for you. But a lot of us, we think that's God. We hear these lies where he doesn't care about you. He doesn't know your name. He doesn't want to know you. You can't be honest. But no, Jesus in this picture through the Father is saying, no, he's looking for you. Do you believe that? Do you believe Jesus is looking for you? And so then he sees him a long way off, and then it says he runs, embraces him, and kisses him. Now again, in the first century, still very true today, Middle Eastern culture was shameful for adult men to run. Completely shameful. Like it was undignified. Do you see what I'm saying? Like adult men did not run. It was children did that. It was for fun and games. And I like to say, if you've seen your dad run, that should be a rule here too. Amen. You're like, Dad, please stop. That's awkward, right? Like it's just if you're above 30, like just walk, bro. You'll get there. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm only 5 years away, and so I'm gonna stop running after that. But I mean, now that I'm a dad, I'm like, man, I'm gonna get there soon, and then my kids are gonna make fun of me. But they didn't run. It was shameful. It was kind of like, again, in the honor culture, it's undignified. There's no honor there. There's no respect there. But this father was actually willing to run. This father was willing to be undignified. He was willing to not really care about the cultural shame. Why? Because the child was the first goal and the ultimate goal. He said, I don't care what I look like. I'm going to get my son. Think about that, how that lines up with the life of Jesus and how he got a bunch of accusations about what his life looked like and how it wasn't proper. But he says, I don't care. I have a goal, and that's to get the children, and I'm going to get them. I'm going to go to get my son. I'm going to go to my daughter. Do you believe that? So he runs, and then it says he embraces him, and he kisses him. He embraces him. It's not like, think about this. Where did the son just come from? Pigsty, right? Now, I kind of live in a city, so I don't know if I've actually ever seen a pig, but from what I've heard, they're not the cleanest, right? Right? I just eat the bacon. Anyone else? Okay. Right? They're not the cleanest. They live in these sties. It's filthy. It's messy. But this even kind of argues that the pigs were doing better than him, which means he had to probably be filthy, disgusting. He probably smelled. He probably had chewed up food and all this stuff all over him in the mud. I don't know. And what I like to say, after that first paragraph, there's no asterisk that says, and he showered and put on Old Spice. And then came home. Which means you're led to believe that when he comes home, he's filthy. Because that was the last place he was at, right? He's filthy, he's gross, he smells. And by the way, too, he was in the pigsty, which Jews, that's unclean. So not only is he actually ceremonially unclean, but he was actually also probably just unclean, right? So there's kind of this double level to it. And he comes home, and the father doesn't get to him and say, whoa, from far away, I was excited, but you want to take a shower first? No. He sees him, probably smells immediately, and sees that he's filthy, but it says he runs, embraces him, and kisses him. Now, question, when you embrace someone who has, I'm in church, I got to be careful here, who has mud on them, I said, never mind. What do you get on you? Same thing, right? Like if the pig is filthy, and then the son was in that, and he's filthy, and he comes home, and then the father hugs him. When you hug someone, like, you can't get close to them without a transfer happening. Does that make sense? Because love and intimacy always involves transfer. Always. You can't have one without the other. And so there's this transfer where when he hugs him, he's becoming filthy. He's becoming dirty. He's taking that on him. And I think that's totally a picture of Jesus, is it not? Yeah. That at the cross, Jesus is saying, all your filth, all your sin, whatever you've done, whatever you are, even no one else even knows, whatever it is, he says, I've taken that on me. I embrace you at the cross. I'm not saying standing off and saying you need to just get clean first and then we'll talk. But he takes it on him, takes it into the grave, buries it, resurrects and says, that's never coming back against you now.